Are you struggling to get your teenagers to listen to you? Listen to simple instructions, do the right thing, or maybe just trying to get your teenagers to engage in communications and spend more quality time with you as their parents? If you find yourself in any of those categories, then this video might just be exactly what you need. Because what I intend to do in this video is to tell you some things about how your child's brain works, the science of how your child's brain works, and then take that knowledge to make the most of the time you spend with them and make the most of how you guide them to get the best outcomes in life. And so, hang around till the end of this video and trust me, you will not regret it. So for starters now, picture this scenario, right? You're young person, you just got notification of exams results for your teenager, and it's a disappointing result. Maybe as disappointing as one of the results I got at some point in my life. So before my senior secondary school leaving certificate, or what you would call GCSE, the final year one, I took a mock one that's a year before. And when the results came out, that was the light bulb that just switched my thinking on and got me on that path that got me ready when the actual exams came, because my result was completely awful, like fails everywhere. So maybe that's the kind of result you've just gotten about your teenager. And you have every right to be frustrated, because in this particular case, you have always told this young person that they need to work harder. You would talk to them, they would pretend as if they've heard what you said. You come back downstairs or go into their room when they're supposed to be studying, and you see them on their phones scrolling, and all. You've tried to let them understand the importance of these exams, and they've always pretended like they've got it all sorted. Relax, Popsy. Relax, Dad. Relax, Momsy. I've got it covered. Don't worry, I'll shock you, They tell you things like that. You've got it all covered. And now the result is out, and you are right. So you have every right to be frustrated. You have every right to want to correct them. But the question is, how do you do that to get the best results? Now, if you're like most, I wouldn't say most, but if you're like some parents, what you would do is to let that frustration out there and then. Say things like, see, I told you, you're about to waste your life. I've told you, you need to be serious. Look at the results you've gotten now. You want to embarrass yourself. You want to destroy your life. And just go on and on and on. But the question is that going to get the results you want? Or is that just going to lead to unnecessary escalations? So, having that in mind, I'm going to tell you what brain to engage to get the best results. But before we go into that, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe and follow this channel, because every week we upload contents like this that will help you prepare your young person for the life ahead and even for success today. Practical, easy to apply tools that would give you everything you need to give your young person the best support they need now. So like, subscribe, follow, share so we can get it to other people. So there's this simplified idea about three brains. So picture three brains. And again, this is an oversimplified concept just to help you understand. So imagine three brain components in your young person's head or skull. One part or one of that brain is responsible for instinctual response. And by instinctual response, I'm talking about that thing they need to survive. And that's like the oldest part of our evolutionary journey. That's that time when we were hunters and gatherers millions of years ago. Almost everything we needed was just to survive. So that part of the brain is well developed, and it's designed to keep you safe. So whenever you find yourself in danger, whenever your young person find themselves in a threatening situation, that's the brain that is active. Then the second one is the emotional brain. So things like fear, motivation, worry, embarrassment, those are the kind of things that that's the part of the brain that is activated when any of those emotions is at play. Then there's a third brain, or the third part of the brain, that is called the thinking or the logical brain. So when you want to answer the question, what next? What do I do in this situation? What actions should I take? when you want to analyze that mathematical equation or solve that problem, that is a part of the brain that is activated. Now, these three parts or these three brains are always competing for the one in charge. And sometimes it's the situation that determines what automatically is activated or what automatically takes charge. And always it's one part of that brain that is working. And so, what you want to do as a parent is to master the art of identifying the brain that is at work, asking yourself, is this the best brain to give me the results that I want? Or is there anything I can do to activate the right brain that would give me the right result that I want? And then doing what it takes to get that result. And so, we're going to be going through a number of steps that would help you achieve that result. And I've put that into something I call DDR, or D Doctor, Dr. DR. And the first step there is to detect. So you need to try to detect and to understand which of the brain is active in this situation. So if we go back to that example, you've just gotten the exam's results and the young person has failed awfully. As they see that result, typically what would happen is the instinctual brain, because what they are trying to do at that point is, am I safe? Am I in trouble? Is my future safe? That's the kind of questions that will be running through their mind. So at that point, it's survival, it's fight, it's flight, it's freeze. They're trying to get through that immediate situation. Any attempt to add pressure at that time is definitely not going to yield the result you want. So what you want to do is to create that emotional safety that would allow you to then lead them into the point where they can engage. Mind you, it's the thinking brain that always gets you the result that you want. But sometimes you need the emotional brain, which is like the connector between that. Is like the part of the brain or the brain that apportions responsibility. You might want to engage that to get the result you want. But what you do not want is to try to get results when someone is at the fight, fright, or freeze mode. That's safety mode. It's like expecting someone to try to think about their future, their career, their admissions and scholarships while drowning. Or if that is too extreme, let's imagine a scenario where someone is being chased by a dog or a lion or whatever, and you want them at that point to start thinking about their future or talk to you about what they've done wrong or how best to do it right next time. That's a total waste of time. So you don't want to do that. The first D is to detect the brain that is at work. If it's instinctual, you don't want to make any serious move at that point. If it is emotional, well, you can take advantage of that or you can ride that. And so the next point in my acronym DDR is to decide what to do. So you've decoded the particular brain that is at work. Is it instinctual? Is it emotional? Or is it the thinking or the logical brain? What you would do would be determined by that discovery. The next step is you need to decide. In this particular situation, should I wait for the right time, for the right brain to be in charge? Should I wait for this person to move from that instinctual state of survival to either emotional or logical brain before I engage with them? Or is there anything I can do to move them from this instinctual, this fight, fright, or flight state to a point where we can meaningfully get some results? Logical brain. If the answer to that question is arrived at, you might decide that you want to wait until the time is right. And oftentimes that's what a lot of people do. The exam results has come in, give them a hug. That's you appealing to the emotional brain. Tell them it will be fine. Don't worry. We'll walk through this together. And 2 days later, you can then have a conversation on the lessons to learn and the right way to get the best results next time. You see that? Then the third step, that's the R in my acronym, is to ride the wave of the brain that is in charge. So once you land and you realize that now this individual is in the emotional state, you could actually ride the wave of emotion to get the results you want to get. But your best place really is that logical brain where they think about what next? What can I do in this situation? And then you can influence their thinking to get the results that you want. Now, let's look at practical steps depending on the brain that is in charge. Practical steps that you can use to get results per time. So, results landed. The individual is frightened, is asking the questions: am I safe? Am I in trouble? Is my future safe? You do not at that point say, I've told you before, see, you're destroying your life, like most African parents would. What you could do at that point is to reassure them and to let them understand that you understand what they're going through. A hug never fails. Sometimes if you have a real joke, you can use it to lighten the mood. But what you do not want to do at that point is to pile too much pressure at that point. It never works. If at that point, what you discover is that they are in the emotional state. So it could be things like they are scared, they are worried, they are embarrassed. What do you do at that point? Stories are easy ways to engage with emotions. And so I always encourage parents, what you could do at that point is to tell something, a story of your own experience and how that led to some positive results. I'm not saying you should just create some fake story that looks fake. What you might want to do is say, for instance, you've talked to them about something before. You could go, remember what I told you about how I failed my exam? Like, I have that CV that I could use. I actually thought the world was going to end. But look at what has happened today. Don't worry, we'll walk through this together and hopefully we'll get the result we need. What you've done with that single statement is to calm the situation down, give them hope, help them think beyond this closed state that they are. Remember, when you're in that safety mode, you don't think very far. All you're thinking about is just to escape the situation. So you calming the situation would give them time and space to be able to think of ways around the problem. And by so doing, you have nudged the step ahead. But let's say in the case of decoding, you've realized that they're in that logical state, they're in that thinking state, and they're ready to get results. Well, your greatest tool in the logical state of mind is right questioning. Now, rather than activating that lecture mode and telling them what to do, what you want to do at this point is to ask questions that would change their perspective, that would give them the opportunity to think far and wide and come up with their own solutions. Because every time the young person feels in charge, feels like they've come up with these ideas by themselves, motivation naturally follows. So in that particular situation, result has come in. The child was in the fright mode, was in survival mode. I could walk them gradually into the emotional mode by giving them a hug and saying, just know that whatever happens, we love you. So at that point, they're a bit calmer. And then just go on a walk if you like. Walk, do something side by side with them. And then when you think they're in that state where they are ready to think about what next. So the question in that logical state is, what can I do in this situation? What next? Maybe by conversation in that emotional state, they might ask the question. So that, what do you think we can do? I sometimes to that question, you might even respond and say, don't worry about that. We'll think about that later when emotions are down. We'll talk about that later. But when you eventually get to that point where you need to talk, one thing I would always recommend is asking them how what happened made them feel. Yeah, so what's your thought about the results? What do you think about the results? They would tell you what they think. They could say, I would have listened to you. Well, even then, that's not when you should start jumping and saying, see, I told you. No, you still hold your emotion and be like, well, I'm glad you saw where I was coming from. So you can ask for the questions that will lead them to come up with practical solutions. Now, every time you apply what I've just told you, you bridge that gap between yourself and your young person. I don't know how far you may have pushed your young person by your previous approach, but if you continuously apply what I've just told you, you'll begin to bridge that gap, and your young person will begin to trust you, and together you will begin to work with them to get the results you want. So in summary, 3 steps: decode what brain is active in every situation your young person is in. 2, decide to either find a way of moving them to the right brain, that's the logical brain, ready for learning and thinking, or maybe wait for when the logical brain is in charge. And 3, you ride the wave of the right brain by doing the right things, taking the right moves. So, in essence, what we're saying is calm the instinct brain, connect with the emotional brain, and guide the thinking brain to get the results you need. I hope you found that useful. Now, if what you've heard in this video has affected the way you think about parenting, has influenced the way you're going to be dealing with your young person going forward, then you are the exact kind of parent we want to work with. At Win Ready Teenagers Coaching and Mentoring, what we do is to help young people to build confidence, improve focus and motivation, overcome digital distraction, gain clarity on school, schoolwork, career, and even their future. So feel free to get in touch or just a comment away. You can also book a free consultation, no strings attached. We'll give you a call. If you book a 30-minute slot, we'll give you a call. We'll have a chat. If you feel like what we're offering is something you want to take, we'll be more than happy to help. If not, free consultation, why not take it? Check out our website. There are resources there, free resources that you could download. There's a free personality test that you can take on our website. That test would give you results around career choices, areas of strength, and things that you could use to improve your teenagers' preparedness for life. So visit the website, get in touch, leave a comment, but also please like and share so we can get this video to other parents that might need them. Thank you very much again for watching this video, and I'll see you again shortly.